Okay, Frank, here we go. Video number 3. I hope I can get them all in this one. I'll try not to be so windy. Okay, 37. This is a big one. I bought the Help You Sell Real Estate franchise in San Diego and worked in real estate then for the following 10 years or so. So I had the real estate business, and wife Janie was working as in several different jobs in San Diego. So number 38, there were some hard times in real estate, and so we ended up being managers of a apartment complex. And so we'd get the free rent, and we got some pay for the job, I think, for it too. And so we were live-in managers. And 39, this is an interesting one. Janie and I had separated, and I was still running the real estate business, and things were tight again. They were tight a lot. And so I got a job delivering newspapers back to the old newspaper business. And so I delivered newspapers in the early morning and then ran the real estate business the rest of the day. And, worked 7 days a week, all the time. But there you go. When you got a business, you know what that's like, Frank I. This is some 1984 data. So in around 1984, I had bought, during the time with Help You Sell, I had bought the regional franchise. Turned out things then at a point got pretty good, and somebody wanted to buy my franchise from me because I'd kind of gotten burned out. I'd been at it for a while. So I said, okay, what do you offer me? Well, basically they offered me $500,000 cash and $500,000 on note. I said, that's pretty good, but I think it can get better than that. So I didn't sell. I brought in one of my franchisees as a partner, which turned out to be the best move I could have made. And I took a break and said, I've got to, once again, I got to get out of here and have a change of pace. So that I did. And Frank, you may remember that was around that time I came back to Wyoming to visit and stayed with Bill. I think it was in the winter. I remember visiting Bill a couple times. One time it was in the winter, and he was in an apartment, kind of a basement apartment, and it was in Cheyenne. So I don't know, you may have some more recollections on that one. So around 1985 also, at this same time as when I left and turned the business over to my buddy, I decided a friend of mine, a guy I'd worked with, owed me money, and I'll try and make this quick, but this was a fun one. It wasn't a job, it was an adventure. I went to Russia. Didn't meet Putin, but so this guy owed me some money, but he couldn't pay me any cash, but he gave me some airline tickets. So I took off and went to Europe. I pretty much worked Northern Europe. I ended up, at first I went up to Sweden, and that's when I learned about a ship to go to Russia. So I got on a cruise ship from a Russian cruise ship coming out of Stockholm, and headed over to Russia and back. It was very interesting. A lot of fun stories on there. I won't go into all the detail, but I did have drinks with a prostitute in Russia. Only drinks. I figured I was wise enough to know I should just have drinks and nothing else in Russia. You kidding me? I could end up in the gulag. So that was really great. Went skiing with Germans in Switzerland, and I went to the Oktoberfest, got drunk with a bunch of Germans. Went to Paris when the biggest weekend in Paris, went to horse races, and it was just an amazing trip. So let's see, what else? Yeah, the Oktoberfest, it was really fun. So I won't go into any more detail on that one. And let's see, we're coming up with number 40. That's when I returned to Los Angeles area, and that was one of my trips to see Bill. I worked, because I had a broker's license, I worked for a development that had a development of housing development, and they were building the houses, but they had the show houses, and so I was the broker on charge there, so that somebody wanted to buy something, I had the legalese to fill out contracts and stuff for them. What was so good about that, it was very quiet. And I was being paid a salary, and I think maybe a commish, but mostly a salary. And I just relaxed and read some books and enjoyed myself and just got into a lot of stuff that about vitamin C and all the stuff that I learned about that. So it was real good to just relax. So that was number 40, take a break. 41, went up to Sacramento and hired on as a consultant with HelpUsell, the business. There was a fellow who wanted to open an office in Sacramento, so he hired me as a consultant, and we built his business from in his house at his kitchen table, and until it was a complete running business. And I actually did some real estate with him, and that's when I met Kathy, my second wife, and we ended up moving out to Casper. Okay, so that was number 41. 42, let's see what we got going on 42. Let's see, where, Yellow Page ads. Oh, okay, so real estate was happening, but I wasn't in on it. I was up in Sacramento, and my buddy was running the business and wasn't too good at this point. So I had to get some other jobs, and I hired on as a salesman with Yellow Pages. Now, younger folks watching this would say Yellow Pages, and that was the way, if you weren't in Yellow Pages, your business would fail. And it was a big, thick book put out by some specialty companies. And so I would go around and sell the ads and help design them. It was a very fun job because I interviewed an endless number of businesses, and I would talk to them on how their business ran and how to figure out how the ad would be best for them, and then design the ad. And I got commission for that as well as salary. So it was a good job. And one of the times when that contract ended up stopping, number 43, I got another unusual job, and I hired on as a salesman for a industrial glue company. So I went around to industrial places selling industrial glue. Ended up at Anheuser-Busch selling them the glue that sticks the label onto the beer bottle, and got to see the inner workings of that. Very, very fascinating how all that worked. So that was for a while. And then 44, number 44, that's when Kathy and I decided to go into nursing. So we moved to Casper, as well you know. It was fun to come out there and kind of surprise you. I just walked in out of nowhere, and I was out there checking it out. And so we moved there and got into school, and I had some jobs there, of course. And that was when Dick the janitor was revisited. So I got some jobs working with a doctor, actually his office and his house. And Kathy worked as a massage therapist. And so we were able to make a few bucks and to stay going and to keep up on the school. Okay. And of course, both of us graduated. We both got Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And then my first job after school was Wheatland, working with Stever. And so I hired on at the hospital in Wheatland. And I didn't last very long because what happened was the classic thing. If you remember the first Top Gun movie, he's with his commander, and they're walking and talking, and he says to him, "Son, your mind is writing checks your body can't cash." And that's exactly what happened to me. My back couldn't take it. I did all the techniques that we were taught and all of that, and it just tore me apart. So I had to leave Stever's place, and I went over to number 46. I went over to back to Casper and worked at a psychiatric hospital. And so it was really great because I walked up and I said to the gal in charge, I said, "Would you be interested in anybody working?" And she says, "Well, what are your credentials?" "Well, I got a bachelor's in psychology, and I got some work on a master's in psychology, and I got a BSN. She says, "Can you start yesterday?" I said, "Oh, okay." So there it was. So that was an interesting one there. I worked my way to where I was in charge of the assessment team, and I carried a beeper because we didn't have cell phones in that days. and I carried a beeper, and I was in charge of the team, and I would be called sometimes in the middle of the night. I'd go to the ER at the hospital in Casper and talk to the doctors about a possible psych patient, yada, yada. It's very good. Well, one morning I'm shaving and I look and I go, oh, clinically depressed. I diagnosed myself as clinically depressed. So I knew I had to leave. Things weren't working well for me. Kathy had to stay there because of her son, Chris, which was the main reason that we went. God sent us there just for that little boy. So I had to leave. So I left. And that would be 47. And let's see if I can keep talking quickly. And number 47, about 1999, 98, I hired on as a drug rep for a pharmaceutical company, in which I stayed for about 12 years and no other extra jobs. Of course, I worked with different companies. It was amazing how you'd work for a while, get a good reputation, then somebody'd hire you away and pay you more, and then somebody else would steal you away, and they never wanted to pay you what the other person wanted to pay you when they were stealing you, but okay. So I had worked with many companies. So during that time, let's see, 48. During that time, I had met a nurse and got married, Kimberly, and she wanted to do Ayurveda, the ancient medicine of India. And so she did. She went to a school in California, a long weekend once a month for 2 years. And I was so impressed with it, I said, I got to do it too. So I signed up and I went to the school. And when I graduated, I left the pharmaceuticals. And I went to India to do extra training with some doctors in Pune, India. I like to say Pune, a little town in India of 3 million people. And so I spent 6 months with them training on Ayurveda, had some amazing experiences, amazing times. I'd been to India 4 times and so amazing things in that country. So let's see. So I came back from India, and we built the Ayurvedic Retreat Center on the land that she had owned, an acre, and we built a retreat center. And if you want to go, Frank, online and look it up, just go Google, say Ayurveda, Medford, Oregon. It'll show up. You'll hear my voice, and it's an intro video for about 4 minutes. Truly came out unbelievable. There's no question divine inspiration and was in all parts of that. So that went real well, and then it didn't. And it ended up, 49, we're almost there. Ended up that the business just couldn't make it due to location. Even though we knew there were problems, it was a problem. And during that time, though, I did hire on that 49th job. I hired on as a consultant with a local endocrinologist that I had met as a drug rep. He wanted to start a new office, so I did it again. I went into his house at his kitchen table, and we built his business and his everything from the ground up, and became a very large, successful endocrinologist practice. So then at a point then, Kimberly and I separated, and she moved up to Portland, where her kids are. And she moved up there, and I stayed with the property and turned it into rentals. And after a point, then we put it on the market. It was a tough one to sell because it was very unique, but it was the most amazing property you can imagine. People came on that place when we had the business, and they would walk on, and they would say that their breath was taken away. The energy, the beauty of that thing was beyond my wildest dream. So sold that business at the same time, was lucky enough to meet Diane here in Ashland, and I moved in with her, and we've been there for the last 5 years. And so that would be my number 50 job, which I've just started. It's called the Shot Coach. Turns out that quite a while ago, I needed to give myself injections of testosterone, and I found out a lot of guys don't get information. The doctor doesn't tell them much, the pharmacist doesn't tell them much, so I started a business instructing them personal instructions on how to give themselves injections. Well, there you go. That was number 50, and I think the last card is the most important one now. The end. So thanks, Frank. Thanks again for getting me to do this. It's been quite a trip, and I really appreciate it. I hope it's been fun, and we can even talk some more about some of my jobs that you remember things that I probably don't remember. All right, Frank, I see you soon.